Good evening. Hope all of you are well. Maseches Yevamos, Daf Samech Dalet. This Mishnah that we're starting with is a well-known Mishnah. We know that there is, of course, a mitzvah for pru'ervu. What if it takes many years to conceive? So what are the halachic responsibilities as it relates to making an attempt? Mitzvah sasei Torah of pru'ervu. It's kind of like a reverse statute of limitations. How far does one have to go in regards to time, in regards to the mitzvah of pru'ervu? Let's say any other mitzvah in the Torah, we have parameters. How much should you spend on tefillin? If you don't have an option, how much should you spend on an esrog? So here we're saying, how long does a person have to be in a halachically viable marriage, one that is reasonable halachically, to try to have kids before they have to shift gears in order to have a child? It's a very well-known Mishnah. What's not well-known is that there's a bit of a discussion about whether or not the 10-year mark is the right number. Let's get started. The Mishnah says on Samach Daled Amud Aleph, a third of the way down in a fresh Mishnah, Nasa Isha v'shayma eser shanim. A man marries a woman and stays with her for 10 years, v'lo yalda, and she does not give birth. Eino rishayli batel. He's not allowed to stop trying to have children. Girsha, if they get divorced, muteres, she is muteres linase la'acher. She's allowed to remarry. What would the concern have been? That maybe she was the one who had the medical problem. She's the one who was infertile. No, we are not concerned about when we don't know who it is at all. No problem. She can remarry. We don't know that it's her, so she can marry anybody else. And this new husband who remarried this woman, he can stay with her for 10 years as well. If in fact she does ever conceive, but then she unfortunately miscarries, then we start the 10-year mark from there, because that is an indicator that she can conceive. And from here on out, if it's 10 years and she doesn't conceive, then okay, then the husband should find another pathway. Now, in the ratio of the Mishnah, when it says Eino Rishayli Batel, so he has an option to also marry a second wife, halachically speaking. That's like, Hagar and all the stories that we have by the Imahos. So fine. Let's go. So the Gemara says, opening at the new Gemara on Samach Daled, the Gemara says, Tanu Rabbanan Nasa Isha v'shayma eser shanim, same as the Mishnah, below Yolda. Yotzi, they should get divorced, v'yitain ksuba, but he does have to give her a ksuba. Shema lo zacha lihibanos mimena. Maybe it was he that was not zoche to build from her, but there's really nothing wrong with her. Says the Gemara, Afal pishein rai l'davar zeche l'davar, and even though there isn't a clear proof to this shita, but we do have a little bit of a hint to this in the psukim. Says the Gemara, quoting the pasuk, Miketz eser shanim l'sheves Avram be'eretz Canaan, 10 years into the land of Eretz Canaan, l'lamedcha she'en yeshivas chutz la'aretz olo lo min haminyan, the 10 years that he was in chutz la'aretz. So seemingly the Gemara is implying that being in chutz la'aretz, it kind of makes sense that you're not going to conceive. That's what the Gemara seems to imply. And in fact, they're not even olo min haminyan. Therefore, if they're sick and therefore they're not together, or they're kept in different cells and prisons and they're not able to be together, this doesn't count in the 10-year. It doesn't count in the 10-year count for infertility. It's just important to note. So even you deduct days, you go out of town for 6 weeks over the course of that time. So then you have 10 years and 6 weeks. It should be time that is viable for husbands and wives to be together. Why don't we learn from somewhere else? We see over there by Yitzchak that it was he married at 40. Why does the Mishnah say 10 years? Maybe the Mishnah should say 20 years, because we see that Yitzchak stayed with his wife, even though it took 20 years to have children. A great question. Amar Le, there it was different. Yitzchak akur haya. Yitzchak was, we knew the problem was with him, and therefore there's no need to get divorced. She doesn't have a mitzvah of pru'ervu, but he does. And if he's infertile anyway, so why get divorced? So that says 20 years. Says the Gemara, Hachi, if that's your assumption, maybe we should say Avraham nami akur haya. Maybe we should argue that in the first pasuk where we saw that Avraham didn't have kids for 10 years, maybe we should say that he was akur as well. So then the Gemara says, confusingly, Hahumi boile lichad Reb Chia bar Abba. We don't yet know what hahu means. We're going to read Rashi in a second, but let's finish the line first. This one of the psukim is going to be used for Reb Chia bar Abba. To Amar Reb Chia bar Abba, Amar Reb Yochanan, Lama nimnu shnosav shel Yishmael. Why would the Torah recount the age, the years of Yishmael, who was a Rasha? Says the Gemara, Kadei liyaches behen shnosav shel Yaakov. The Meforshim actually go into what we actually learned mathematically about Yaakov from Yishmael. So let's take a look at Rashi to understand the Shakla of the Gemara. Rashi is a third of the way down. Rashi says, Klomar, Yitzchak akur haya. Yitzchak could not have kids, and mishum hachi lo nasiv acharisi. He didn't marry another woman. V'krad Yitzchak ben shishim shana. The pasuk that says that Yitzchak was 60 years old. Lo yeserahi detema lehachi kasve rachmana lemigmar minei shehias esrim shana. It's not extra to say that therefore it's possible we should learn out that the delay in having children is 20 years and not 10. Tehahu, that pasuk of the esrim shana mi boile v'chule, that was the Gemara's answer. That if we go back in the Gemara now, that Hahumi Boile, the Gemara says 2/3 of the way down to teach us about Yishmael and really about Yaakov. So that's why it says those extra psukim, and we don't have an extremely clear answer here. Amar Rav Yitzchak, Yitzchak Avinu Akor Haya, Shene'emar Vayetar Yitzchak LaHashem Lenochach Ishto, and it doesn't say Al Ishto Lo Ne'emar, Ela Lenochach, in the presence of his wife, Malame Sheshnehem Akurin Hayu. Both of them were having trouble having children, and they assumed that the problem was with each of them, not just with one of them. If that's true, why does the pasuk say v'yetar lo? It should have been v'yetar lahemi boile. It should have been plural. Why was only he the one davening? Because who was his father? He was a tzaddik ben tzaddik. Lipi she'eno doma tfilas tzaddik ben tzaddik, the tfilas tzaddik ben rasha. Because the power, the efficacy of the tefillah of a tzaddik ben tzaddik is greater than that of a tzaddik ben rasha. This next line of Gemara is one of the more famous ones in Shas. Amar Rav Yitzchak mipnei ma hayu avosenu akurim. Why is it that our forefathers and or foremothers, whoever they were, why is it that they were akurim, that they were having trouble having children? Says the Gemara mipnei she'akadosh baruch hu mis'ava letfilasan shel tzadikim, that Hashem desires the prayers of tzadikim. So the Mefarshim dig into what this actually means. Is that the tzadikim? One approach in the Mefarshim is that the tzadikim, they have a requirement that they are on a higher level. They're doing things that are broader and bigger than most of us, and therefore they had to reach deeper places of tefillah, the deepest places of tefillah, and that's when you are in the deepest of pain. So without having children, without the continuity, so therefore people daven harder, and that's why HaKadosh Baruch Hu is mis'avel tefillas and shel tzadikim.
That was the tefillah that he was praying.
Where does it say that?
He probably has Svarim Akdoshim of Shach.
It's called Svarim Akdoshim.
He can say that.
Yeah,
sure.
Beautiful. 4 lines from the bottom. Amar Rav Yitzchak.
What was that?
Nochach, the verb we just had here.
Pasuk says Nochach. Is it both? Nochach Ishto L'chora. Nishmas Kol Chai. Both words. Both words. Nochach Ishto.
Why?
I'm asking you.
Nochach is Rosh Hashanah was Nishmas Kol Chai.
Oh, Rosh Tevos. They were saying Gematria.
No.
It's absolutely even better. I totally misunderstood.
No.
I heard you said all the right words. My brain didn't process them the right way. I hope sometimes in Daf Yomi that I say the right words and you do process them the right way, because I just totally misunderstood you, but thank you. Amar Rav Yitzchak, why is it that the prayers of the righteous is considered like a pitchfork? We've seen this Gemara before. Just like the pitchfork is used to move hay, to move vegetation, straw, whatever it is, from one part of the field to another. So too, the pitchfork, as it were, the power of tefillah of tzaddikim is to change the midah of HaKadosh Baruch Hu from ragzanos, from being beroges to anger, from anger, the midas rachmanos, to a merciful viewpoint. So we can actually change the gzeira of HaKadosh Baruch Hu if we're tzaddikim. Amar Rabbi Ami, Avraham v'Sara tumtimin hayu. Wow. Avram and Sarah, they had some type of skin covering their private parts that made it a little unclear what gender they were. And this is implied from a pasuk, Shenemar habitu al tzur chotzavtem, that there was something carved out of rock, vel makeves bor nukartem, and there was a hole that was dug out, which is an implication that he had to have skin removed to reveal his gid, and she had to have skin removed to reveal the osamakom, and then after that, once that problem was solved, that they were able to have fruits, they were able to have children. Sarah Imenu was completely infertile. She didn't even have a uterus, 0. I read something in the news today. Unbelievable. The whole Roe v. Wade. So this woman who is so gung-ho about her body and that it's all about rights of people, she did a surgery to remove permanently her fallopian tubes. She's 24, so that she never has to be begeder, the government control. Hashem Yerachem Rachmana Nitzlan Mehai Daita. That is
theory that says something that crazy.
maybe. I'm more concerned about the logic than the person. It's just such an embrace such an idea, to lose your own future because unbelievable. Thank God we have Torah. So Sarah Imenu is sitting there without a uterus. So this in a whole nother planet. So she's like, that's not happening. So she starts davening, and Taka, look what ended up happening. She ended up having children. And if Pshat in the pasuk is right of Ein Lav Alad, and that she could Ein Lav Alad, the words are, that's why the Mefarshim say she was Akara and Ein Lav Alad. Why say both? You're either Akara, and obviously if you're Akara, you haven't. So that's why the Mefarshim say we know that she didn't even have a uterus. So Nes Nigla, that she was able to have children, maybe Nes Nistar. Amar Yehuda Bred Rab Shmuel Bar Shilas Mishmei Derav Lo Shanu. When do we say that it's 10 years? Lo shanu ela bedoros harishonim sheshnosein merubos. 10 lines down, samach daled amud beis. The only time we say that it's 10 years, that's the upper limit at which a man has to pursue other avenues for pruervu. 10 years, that's only back in the day when people were living 140, 150, 160 years old. Aval bedoros hachronim sheshnosein muatos. Now that we live in a generation where people's lives are not that long, like they were by the avos, shtei shanim umechza. It's 2.5 years. Keneged shlosha iburim rabba. It is like having 3 cycles of pregnancy. That's how much time a person should spend trying with his current wife to have children. And if they fail, then at that point, after 2.5 years, so then the marriage either can continue but with a second wife, or they can divorce and he can remarry. Amar Rav Nachman, shalosh shanim keneged shalosh pekidos. No, it's 3 years, but only at the cycle of Rosh Hashanah. The Amar Mar b'Rosh Hashanah nifkedu Sarah Rachel v'Chana. Only when they got to the Beis Medrash, when they started davening on Rosh Hashanah, that's when things changed. So says the Gemara, hang on one second. This doesn't make sense. You're saying that in the times of Moshe Rabbeinu, everybody lived a little bit longer. So then the chiyuv to change direction for the mitzvah of pruervu is at 10 years. And all of a sudden, everything changed. What are you talking about? Says the Gemara, Amar Rabba, leisnu l'hani klale. That's ridiculous. We don't have any of these shorter versions. Michti, masnisen man takin. Who is the one who put together our Mishnah that says that the parameter is 10 years? Rebbe. The Habi made David imut shani. We know that even in the times of David, forget about the Amoraim and the Tanaim, forget about that. Go back thousands of years to David HaMelech. Forget it. That's crazy. And the Gemara outright rejects the possibility that we shifted the number of years. The standard at which we have to change our approach to pruervu is not 2.5 years or 3 years. He throws it out entirely. The Gemara just moves on to another topic, like not giving it any more ink. Conversation's over.
Question and answer.
Which piece? Oh, the W, like what was the Havamina?
The Mishnah was written by somebody who lived the same lifespan as the rest of us.
Yeah, I mean, how long did he live? Yeah. How long could he have lived? He didn't even live 100 years. I don't know how long he lived, but I don't think it was 100 years.
People in that time lived 70, 80 years.
Yeah, exactly.
How long Rebbe lived, who knows?
Who knows? But yeah, because even thousands of years before.
Right. People in his time lived 70 years.
The Havamina is interesting on a couple of fronts. First of all, historically, it doesn't really make sense. And second of all, do we have any other areas of halacha like that?
That's what I'm saying. It's so interesting that Rebbe wrote the Mishnah for us to live starting in his generation for us to continue. So he wasn't talking about prehistoric times. It's an interesting answer.
Yeah. Okay, I hear. Yeah, I'm just wondering if anywhere else in Shas we have such ideas where our halacha modifies to the times in such dramatic form.
Well, but it didn't. The point is
it didn't. I know. I'm just saying. I'm saying in the Havamina. Yeah. I don't know.
You have Mishnahs where it's like a takana, and then they change the takana, and they say like that Mishnah doesn't apply anymore because of that reason.
That's true, but pruervu is a mitzvah d'oraisa. So if the parameters of pruervu are midoraisa, so then the parameter itself is not subject to change. It's not a takana. This is a mitzvah saseh shel Torah. You have to put on tefillin. Like the rules don't, the basic rules don't change. You got to put on tefillin. They're still right. They're still cubes, whatever the sizes are. Yeah. Okay, let's keep going. The Gemara goes back to a line we quoted at the open of our Gemara in the previous Samud. We said Shema lo zachalihi banos heimena. Maybe he was the problem and she wasn't. V'dilma ihi de lo zachia. Maybe it was she who was the problem. Says Rashi 10 lines down. V'dilma ihi de lo zachia, and therefore v'lo sital ksuba. Wow, that if we find out halfway through a marriage 5 years in that she's an akara, Rashi implies that she can be Yotzi B'lo Ksubasa, because she's the problem, and he has a mitzvah Saseh Shel Torah to have children. Says the Gemara, no. Ihi Kevan de lo mifkeda apirya v'rivya lo me'ansha. Wow, you can't punish her for that. You can't do that. She's got to get her money. It is her responsibility, yes, to be available to her husband for pru'urvu. That's correct. But it's not her mitzvah, it's his mitzvah. So therefore, we're not going to slap her on the wrist and say, you're an akara. In addition to the bad news, you also lost your ksuba. We're not doing that because she's not mitzvah in the mitzvah to start with. The Gemara says Eini, but it's actually really another part of the sugya. What does Eini mean? Rashi, 12 lines down. This is Amas Nisan Parich. It's asking a question on our Mishnah. What did our Mishnah say? The Katani Yisa Acheres, that he should possibly marry another woman. Shema lo zachali banos hemana. So says the Gemara, Eini, is that really true that he should marry another woman? Ve'amrule Rabban and the Rabbi Abba Bar Zavda, Nasiv Itza ve'oli bane. They said to him, go get married and have children. V'amar lahu izakoi havulik mikamaisa. He said, forget it. If I was going to have children, it would have been with my first wife. So what do we see from this story? No need to continue the pursuit. Once you've tried, and then seemingly you're done. So why does the Gemara present an idea of Yisa Acheres, that he should marry another woman? This story doesn't seem to say that. The Gemara says, actually, the story with Abba Bar Zavda is not really what it looks like. Hasam, Dachui Kamad Chiluhul Rabban. He was just brushing off the rabbis with a little, just a couple of words that fell out of his mouth, but it's not halachically a valid answer. Why is that? The Rabbi Abba Bar Zavda, remember yesterday we spoke about this, that there were Talmidim sitting in their Rebbe's shiur, and they ran into this medical issue that because they didn't want to leave shiur and they had to go to the bathroom so badly, so therefore it made them sterile. Again, I don't know how the science works. I don't know enough to know about that, but the bladder is nowhere near the scrotum, which is where the zera is. So I don't exactly know how that works, but that's what the Gemara assumes. Not only that, Rav Gidel Iaker Mipirkei Rav Huna, he also became sterile. Rav Chelbo Iaker Mipirkei Rav Huna, Rav Sheshes Iaker Mipirkei Rav Huna. Someone's got to get a bathroom pass and shiur. The kids have to go to the bathroom. If they have to go to the bathroom, they have to go. Says the Gemara, Rav Acha Bar Yaakov, Achadate Suskinta. He started to get sick from this particular disease. Tuluya, they hung him be'arza de be'rav, from the cedar planks, from the rafters of the ceiling. They hung him upside down. And v'nafak minei kihutza yarka. And he had some kind of discharge that was green, like a lulav, that type of green color that discharged from his body. And that was the healing thing that prevented him from actually being sterile. Amar Ravacha Bar Yaakov, Shitin Sabe Havena. There were 60 elders in shiur. The Kulhu Yakar Mipirkei Rav Huna Lebar Me'ona, and all of them became infertile because of Rav Huna's shiur, except for myself. The Kaime Ben Avshai, he said, because I fulfilled within myself. How do you read that? What's the word? It says the Gemara, the pasuk is Hachachma Tichayeh Ve'aleha. Wisdom will sustain the ba'aleh, the person himself. So the Meforshim discuss what this means. Maybe he actually got up in shiur and went to the bathroom, even though it seemed to be a little bit rude. It's not rude. The din is you're obligated to do that. In fact, by tefillah, we have a din that if a person has to go to the bathroom, they're not allowed to daven. You're not allowed to daven if you really have to go to the bathroom. It's an isser derabanan of bal tashaktu. If a person holds in the need to go to the bathroom when he knows that he has to go to the bathroom within the next 72 minutes. If you know that no matter what, you will find a bathroom or go to the bathroom within 72 minutes, it's an isser derabanan to hold it in at that point. Then your whole world turns upside down until you find a bathroom.
You kind of like the note 20, others suggested he urinated in public in consonance with the ruling state in Bechoros. So he just
went to the bathroom.
Azai. And just a question.
And mutter.
And it was mutter sitting mutter.
Yeah.
Well, what does it mean that Rav Acha Bar Yaakov was?
Take a look in Rashi, because I didn't understand what that was doing there either.
What was your question?
What's the story about Rav Acha Bar Yaakov doing?
Oh, well, I was making 2 points.
It was about this. It was about this.
Of how he was able to be okay, is that was how we did it. But then going back to the first where it says he afflicted with
suskinta, yeah.
Well, what does it mean they suspended him from the cedar column? That he was like up high?
Well, it wasn't about the height. It appears from the Gemara like they turned him over in some way, shape, and form. It seems that way. So that's what the language seems to be. And then that generated, for whatever reason, a particular discharge that prevented him from getting sick. This greenish discharge.
Sterile. That was the point.
What? Preventing being sterile.
Right.
Correct. Yeah.
Because that sickness is what led to
sterility,
and they caught it in time.
Exactly. By him, they caught it in time. By him, they caught it in time.
They did, but they suspended him somehow.
Just if you guys need to go to the bathroom during daf yomi, just please just exit en masse. It's totally fine. Don't hesitate. That's I don't even understand how this I don't understand how this evolved in the first place. It's usher to hold it.
There was a long list.
Yeah.
One thing that it's not covered to go, but I mean,
it's not good. Something's not right. All right, 2 dots. We're going to get into a bit of a lamdish sugya, and we'll stop at the 2 dots at the top on Samach Hamad Aleph. And the lamdish sugya is about chazaka. What about chazaka? So let's see. The Gemara says that girsha muteres, that if they get divorced, that she is allowed to remarry. How many times is she allowed to remarry until we see that she's the problem? So it says the Gemara, sheni, and yes, she can marry the second man. However, if he doesn't have children over the course of the 10 years of their marriage, shlishi lo. So it says the Gemara, Masnisan Mani. Who is the author of our Mishnah? It's Rebbe. Rebbe famously is of the opinion that a chazaka is established with only 2 occurrences. Titania, Mala harishon umes, sheni umes, shlishi lo timal divrei Rebbe. If Rahmana litzlan, a woman has a child and the first child dies from the bris, specifically from the bris, and the second child dies from the bris, that's already enough of a chazaka to establish that that she does not have to circumcise her third child. Shlishi lo timol, that's Rebbe. Reb Shimon ben Gamliel Omer, incorrect. Shlishi timol, revi lo timol. We establish a chazaka with 3 occurrences, not with 2. This is found throughout Shas. It's not new. We'll see it in most Maseches that we learn. The Tanya, wait 1 second. Ipcha, we learned that the shitas were in fact reversed. Says the Gemara, well, which one was first? Was it the presentation that we just saw, or the reverse shita, the Ipcha brayso? Which one came first? Haiminayu acharinisa. Not which one came first, which one came last. So let's see, we're halfway down Samach Daled Amud Beis. Tashma, the Brisa writes, to Amar Reb Chia bar Abba Amar Reb Yochanan, it's actually not a Brisa, it's an Amoraim. Maisa be'arba achayos betzipori. There's a story with 4 sisters. Shemala Rishona Umes, let's say the oldest sister, she did a bris on her son and the son died. Shnia, the second sister, she did a bris on her son Umes. Shlishis Umes, the third sister as well, and the kid died. Revi's, the 4th sister, was about to do a bris. She's like, my 3 sisters have all lost children from a bris. So Bas Lifnei Reb Shimon ben Gamliel. Amar la al timuli. What did he say? You should not do a bris. What do we see from here? We see from here that a chazaka is established by 3. Says the Gemara, no. Dilma i asya shlishis nami hava amarle. They only asked after the 3rd child died. What if they would have asked before they circumcised the 3rd child? You can't bring a raya from a story when you surpassed the opportunity. You passed up on an opportunity to ask a shaila. That might be their fault. Says the Gemara, Im kain, my asadu said Reb Chia bar Abba. Of course, that's not what Reb Chia bar Abba. Obviously, he knows that. He's showing you that the psak came over here after the 3rd child died, and then we said that by the 4th you're not allowed to do the bris, and therefore a chazaka is established by 3 occurrences. Says the Gemara, maybe this whole story is not a regular chazaka. A regular chazaka is when one woman has multiple children and they all die. Here, says the Gemara, the dilma kamashma de achayos mechazkos. Oh, a different lamdus. Maybe you could say that, do we establish a chazaka with 4 different women? That's a great shaila, and maybe that's what we're talking about. So the Gemara interjects a little bit of a parenthetical comment. Now that we seem to have an implication from here that sisters do generate a chazaka, lo yisa adam isha, lo mi mishpachas nichvin. You shouldn't marry a woman from a family of those who have epilepsy, lo mi mishpachas mitzora, and those who have mitzora. Who dis chazik plus azimni, as long as it's happened 3 times. So if you have 3 sisters in a family who have epilepsy, you shouldn't marry the 4th. You know what's coming down the pipeline. We know what's going on. That's what the Gemara is saying. Chazaka can be established within a family from multiple siblings. A very fascinating idea. There's no Punnett squares back in the day. They didn't know what to expect. Blue eyes, green eyes, brown hair. They had no idea. Receding hairlines. They had no clue about this stuff. We know that now because of biology. But the Gemara is saying that halachically speaking, you are allowed to make a chazaka like that. If there's 4 girls in a family and you're looking to get married and 3 of them have some type of flaw, you are allowed to make the halachic chazaka that the 4th sister probably has the same.
I don't know that that's fair to say some type of flaw. The Gemara says her epilepsy and leprosy.
Yeah, whatever the parameters are there. I'm not 100% correct. It's not everything. I've got to figure out what it is. But these are illnesses. Yeah, there's always a problem somewhere, I guess. Yeah. The Gemara says 2/3 of the way down, my have'ala, lemaisa, how do we paskin? Which brisa came first? Most broadly, where do we say that a chazaka is with 2 occurrences, or where do we say it's with 3? And we'll see by the end of the Gemara that it just depends on the sugya. And the end of this Gemara has a beautiful clarification of when we rely on 2 episodes being a chazaka and 3. The Gemara says, Ki asa Rav Yitzchak bar Yosef Amar Uvda Hava Kamed Rav Yochanan B'Knishta de Ma'on B'Yom Kippurim. There was a story that took place in the shul in Ma'on on Yom Kippur Shechal Lios B'Shabbos. Double whammy. It's Yom Kippur, that's Shabbos. a Shabbos, and it's a very busy bris day. Umala Rishona Umeis, the first child died from bris milah. Shnia Umeis, and the second one died. Shlishi is Ba Lifnei, Ba Lefanav, Amar La, Lechi Umuli. You go do the bris. Right? So we see that 2 is going to be the case. Amar Le Abaye, Chazi, you need to make sure that you know what's going on. No, it seems to be from one family. Yeah, triplets. Why? Maybe not triplets. Maybe it's a din in the moel. I'm saying that now. I'm saying it now. I didn't.
That's what I'm asking.
Yeah, I don't know.
Next year,
yeah.
Next year it might not be Shabbos.
3 sisters.
Or is it 3 sisters again?
It says here 3 sisters.
Mala
Rishona.
Yeah.
That's
Mala. It's on the sisters. It's on the sisters. Yeah. Good correction. What? Doesn't matter actually. It's chazaka is established with both. It doesn't matter what the case is, but it is accurate that this is the case. Correct.
But the point is that the third sister
was restricted.
Was she restricted? I think it's just.
No, so here it says, and here it wasn't. L'shlishi is ba lefanav. They asked the shaila, Omar la, and they said to this third sister, L'chi umuli, you should do the bris. Namely, a chazaka is not established by 2; it's established by 3, and therefore, this child is halachically speaking not at risk. Amar le Abaye chazi de kasharis isur v'sakanta. First of all, you did something prohibited, and second of all, you did something dangerous. What kind of psak is that? However, much as he complained, Samach ala Abaye, he himself actually relied on this particular halachic assumption that a chazaka is only established after 3. Why? Because what did he do? Abaye was ve'azal nispa lechoma. He married a woman whose name was Choma. Barata de Isi Bere, the Rav Yitzchak Bere, the Rav Yehuda, many generations, but she was the daughter of Isi. And says the Gemara, de nispa rachba de pumpadisa v'shachiv. This woman Choma had married Rachba, who lived in Pumpadis, and he died. And then Rav Yitzchak Berei de Rabba Bar Chana v'shachiv. Then she married Rav Yitzchak Berei de Rabba, and he died. And then B'nos Bahu, then Abaye married her, third marriage, because he was under the assumption that it takes 3 to establish a chazaka v'shachiv, and then he died.
Oh boy.
Says the Gemara, Omar Rava, Abaye's counterpart, Umi Ika de Avid Uvda Benafshe Kihai. Is there anyone who ever self-inflicted harm like Abaye just did? He himself said, Avin de Samcha, we rely on a person named Samcha, but Yitzchak Sumka, this guy who we just quoted 2 lines ago, who was the one who said that the chazaka is only after 3, Yitzchak Sumcha la bar Samcha. Why? Why was there a distinction? Because Avin Yashno bechazara, Avin Yisachazar is learning. Yitzchak Sumcha eno bechazara. So even Abaye himself held that this person should not be reliable to say that a chazaka is only after 3 times. Not only that, va'od Amar de pligi. When is it that we would say that there's a discussion about chazaka le'inyan mila? But b'nisu and mi pligi, everyone should agree that it's only going to be 2. What was Abaye thinking? The Gemara says. Let's see. We'll see in the Gemara. Says the Gemara in that even by nisuin we have a machlokes about this. Tanya nises the rishon umes l'sheni umes l'shlishi lo tinaseh divrei Rabbi. So we see that there is a machlokes where the Gemara was asking. It should be obvious, and it was wrong. The Gemara was saying that yes, there should be a machlokes in regards to how long it takes to establish a chazaka by mila, but maybe not by nisuin. We'll see why in the Gemara soon. But we do see a machlokes that a chazaka is established after 2. The Revi lo tinaseh. Sorry. Established after 3. So says the Gemara, Bishlam Agabe Mila. I understand by Bris Mila, Ika Mishpacha de Rafe Dama. There are some families who have very thin blood. Ika Mishpacha de Kami Dama. There are families who coagulate very well. I can attest to this. I carry the emergency tools in my bag. Hashem should bless me. I rarely use them, thank God. And I've started becoming way more religious over the years when it comes to these things, because we do not control these things. You have babies who have bleeding disorders, no vitamin K shots, perfectly fine. Babies who have like extra vitamin K shots, and they're the bleeders. So we don't control these things. You got to daven for them. So we understand why by bris milah there should be a shaila about when to establish a chazak after 2 occurrences or 3. Elanisu, in my time, a marriage is marriage is marriage. What's the problem? Why should there be any reason to assume a stricter line of chazaka? So says the Gemara, because Amar le Rav Mordechai Rav Ashi. Did I skip a line? No. Elanisu in my time. Amar le Rav Mordechai Rav Ashi. Maybe it has something to do with osamakum, with the tash mishamita. Maybe it's a din in the wife. Rav Ashi Amar, no, mazel gorim. It has to do with the person's mazel. What's the difference between these two approaches as to why nisuin should also have a machlokas about when a chazaka is established? My benahi, what's the difference between these two answers? Ikabenau the irsa umeis. Let's say they never had tash mishamita and it's only a din in mazel. You can't say that it's a me'osamakom, that it's ma'ayan, that it's from her. They never had tash mishamita. Inami did not feel midikla meis. Or if he died in a weird way, if he died because he fell off a tree, so nishta raya that it's a din in the wife. That's not correct. So that I don't know where you draw the line. What type of death is considered the wife's responsibility, and what type of death is not? You choke on food in the kitchen. What if you choke on food somewhere else? So that requires some diyun in regards to understanding what this means. But either way, these would be nafkaminas. Amalei Rav Yosef Red Rava LeRava. We need to get the names right here. Rav Yosef was the son of Rava and also a Rebbe in the previous generation. Rava was fourth generation. He had a son, Rav Yosef. And Rava's previous generation Rebbe was also named Rav Yosef. So Rav Yosef, the son of Rava, said to Rava, Ba'emine me Rav Yosef halacha kiRebbe, that he had asked a question from Rav Yosef what the halacha was in regards to, do we hold like Rebbe? Do we hold like Rebbe that it's the chazaka is established in Tuva? Amar li in, yes. And then I asked, what about halacha kirib Shimon ben Gamliel? Amar li in, yes, we hold like both of them. So he thought, everybody's making fun of me. What kind of ridiculous answer is this? We either hold two or three. Says Lo, that's not correct. Nobody's making fun of anybody. Stamehi. We have a lot of different mishnayos that are stam. And upashit lach, and we have a way to explain them. Nisuin umalkios, when it comes to marriage and when it comes to malkos, so then kirab. Then we paskin like Rebbe that a chazaka is established after two occurrences. But when it comes to vestos, v'shor hamuad, when it comes to these two areas of halacha, vestos we discussed yesterday, and we'll discuss more momentarily, and shor hamuad, an animal that can cause damage to another animal or to other people, that's Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel. Then we need three occurrences. Nisu and hada amran, that's our sugya from today. That was the case where we see that the chazaka is established with two, according to some shittas by Rebbe. Malkios, what was that case? Ditnan mishalaka v'shana, a person who gets malkos and then they repeat the crime again. Bezdin konsin oso l'kipa, they put him into some type of jail or a cage. And they feed him barley until he dies from gluttony, from overeating. But anyways, what was the case there? Misha Shana Balaka. So Misha Laka Vishana, that he got the punishment twice. What did they not do? Give it to him the third time. We therefore see that two is a chazaka. Vestos, there the Gemara shifts now to the other side. Vestos, titnan ein ha'isha kovaas la vesas ad shetikpa ena shalosh pa'amim. As a woman begins to regularly get her period, so the way that it works in halacha is that there's what's called a veses kavua. Most women nowadays do not have a veses kavua. Most women have a veses she'ena kavua. A veses kavua is when a woman sees her period at exactly the same interval of time from one period to the next and to the part of the day. So let's say that a woman always gets her period 31 days apart in the morning for 3 months in a row. That's called a veses kavua. And that means that the next month at 31 days that morning, they're not allowed to be together. But they don't have to worry about any of the other vestos because she has a veses kavua. But that's only established with a chazaka of 3. That's kovas veses ashetik b'ena shalosh pa'amim. And conversely, when a woman does have a veses kavua, how do you undo a veses kavua? So says the Gemara, be'ein mitaheres min haveses ashetziakim b'mena shalosh pa'amim. And if she wants to undo her establishment of she always gets her period at 31 days in the morning, so there have to be 3 cycles in a row where she doesn't get her period at the 31st day in the morning. That's how you are me'akir. There we see, like the other shita, that the chazaka is established only after 3 occurrences. And lastly is Vishor Hamuad. Vishor Hamuad is an animal that gores others. Titnan, Ein Hashor Na'as Hamuad Ya'idu Bo Shalosha Pe'amim, that a Shor Hamuad is not put into the category of Muad. We know that there's 2 categories of Shor. There's a Shor Tam and a Shor Muad. An animal can only be Begeder Muad after 3 occurrences where it damages other animals. So that's the larger machlokas, starting, of course, with whether or not a woman is allowed to marry more than 2 husbands under the assumption that she's not the problem. That's a machlokas, 2 or 3, which is broadened into the larger conversation that we just discussed over the last Amud. We'll stop right here and we'll pick up in Mir Hashem tomorrow with Daf Samachay. One scheduling note: I have a bris Shabbos afternoon in Skokie. We're going to be doing Daf Yomi after the 2:30 mincha on Shabbos, and then you'll have the afternoon off. Wishing you all a beautiful night.
Sure.